I want to thank Best Buy for sponsoring this video. What's up everyone, it's B the Installer, and I just got back from CES 2023, which was absolutely exciting, but absolutely exhausting. So I want to go over all of the new stuff that I saw at 2023, and then tell you if you should just buy a TV now. Sort of the should you buy or should you wait video. This is the third time I've done this video. Very excited to get going on this. And I'm gonna go over all 5 of the major brands that are sold in the US. I'm gonna start with Samsung, but I'm gonna end with LG, which I think had some of the most exciting news in 2023 CES. So stick around to the end for LG. And we're gonna start with Samsung because there was exciting news in QD OLEDs in 2023 and also QLED TVs. So in 2021, they had the QN90A, which was the first mini LED, which I thought had amazing black levels, but suppressed a lot of the highlights in that TV. And I almost thought that the lower version, the QN85, was a little bit better, a little bit brighter. But then in 2022, they kind of did the reverse. Raised black levels, but very bright and vibrant screen. So I liked the QN90B better. And in 2023, it looks like they're going to be combining the best of both worlds, where they're going to have the brightest highlights that the QN90A and the QN90B had, but yet retain those black levels of that first QN90A. So I'm excited for the QN90C, which will have more dimming zones than either of the TVs I mentioned previously, and will be able to control the dimming zones in a different manner, which I believe they're going to be able to control larger and smaller portions of the screen in different ways. From the demo we got to see, it does look like they've been able to do this, and I'm very excited for that QN90C. But that doesn't mean I don't think you should buy the QN90B. And to look at some of these TVs and the current prices, we're going to go to the Best Buy website here and click on Top Deals, because that's where you can find the best prices. And when I do that and I go into Samsung TVs, I can find this Neo QLED QN90B. And right now the QN90B at 65 inch is $1,799, which is down $200 it says here, but I do believe that this TV started off even higher at around $2,500. So fantastic TV, we had it in here. I really enjoyed the 85 inch. The discount on that isn't quite as substantial at this point, but I think that they did a great job with the second version of the mini LED here. I was happy with the brighter highlights of the B version versus the A, even if the black level did come up a little bit, because it is an LED-based TV and it's still the best on the market. And when that new QN90C comes out, I guarantee you it's going to be at least $800 more than this, so you'd be waiting probably 9 months to get that C version. So I think for a lot of people that are looking to buy the very best QLED right now, this Samsung 65-inch QN90B or larger sizes is probably still your best bet. But probably the most exciting news to me at CES 2023 was the introduction of a 77-inch QD OLED panel, and not just in one model, but 2. They'll have the S90C, which is very similar to last year's S95B, which was very popular amongst a lot of QD OLED buyers because of the better price point than the Sony, but we'll get into that in a second. They'll have that in 55, 65, and 77 inch. But they're also going to have an upgraded model, which will be called the S95C. And that'll be the same upgraded panel, but it'll look more like the 8K QLED TVs with an upgraded audio system on the back and a One Connect box, which I'm stoked about. So I'm very excited for both of those models. And when we were at Samsung Display, we got to see all the improvements that they've made between the first generation QD OLED and second generation. And I have to say it's pretty impressive. Clear differences between the two panels and the traditional WOLED. Now, we don't know exactly what that traditional OLED was, so I just look more at the differences between the 2022 and 2023 QD OLED, but definitely better specular highlights, more rich and vivid colors, and one thing that a lot of people aren't talking about, which was the fact that they're claiming it to be twice as durable as last year's model. Now, I'm not really sure exactly what that means. I thought the S95B looked pretty fantastic, and I think a lot of people are happy with that for gaming and all these other things. But if you want a little bit more, or you want the second generation of the product, then, wait for these other ones to come out later in the spring. But right now, you can still get that S95B in a 55 inch for $1599. And if you're talking about getting an OLED TV, which is a fantastic gaming monitor as well with all the specs and a very bright, vibrant picture that I was pretty happy with, then I would definitely consider the S95B OLED, again, $1599 on this Best Buy website. And if you want to get the 65-inch version, then I believe it it is $19.99, which is a little bit higher than it was before, but I would look for some of these prices to fluctuate here and again. And as the new models come out, then they'll definitely dip down a little bit. Now, if you're on the fence and you're like, I could wait or I could buy now, I will tell you that when I was messing around with some of the TVs over at CES, the menus and the Tizen software look to be a lot faster than it was in 2022, as well as all of the remotes are even smaller than before. They still have the solar panel on the back. So I think that that new OS is going to be one of the things that makes me get over the hump for Samsung in the QD OLED department, because I had a bit of an issue with that OS. But overall, the S95B, extremely popular TV. And if you get it at a low price right now, it's going to be better than having to wait 6 or 7 months for you to get that same price on the next model. But if you want a 77-inch QD OLED like myself, then you're going to have to wait until probably April or May for the new 2023 QD OLEDs to come out. Now, jumping into Sony, it was a bit of a disappointment at CES because they didn't have any new monitors or any information. And I expect Sony to have great TVs as they normally do. But it's hard for me at this point to say, should you wait for those models or should you buy something right now? Because they did win the award for Best Consumer TV in the QD OLED, the A95K in 2022. Again, 55 and 65 inch only. And after I've just explained how the new panel is going to be even better, it might give you kind of mixed messages on what you should do. And I'm not sure if they're going to release a new model, an A95L, I guess, but I definitely would be interested in at least having an A95K in a 77 inch, maybe with the newer 2023 panel, but I don't have any inside information on how that's going to play out. So the A95K at 65 inch is $31.99. It is a bit higher than it was before, still better than the $4,000 price that it came out in. And if you want the best QD OLED or the best TV in 2022, this is it. And I would recommend it. It's just that it's a bit more expensive than I would like. But I would recommend it based on all the positives you probably hear all year long, which is the processing, the brightness, the heat sink, the great speakers. It has a new Bravia cam, etc. So fantastic TV, one of my favorite TVs. Again, didn't come in a 77 inch. And you probably know me as having a lot of big TVs around. So this was the smallest TV that I reviewed all year. But if you want to get into really large TVs, I still do like the X90K from Sony because it's really tough to get a big TV from a company like Sony for around $2,000. It's $22.99 right now, but this TV is very popular around Super Bowl time. I see it getting carted out in trucks one after another if you go to Best Buy, so that's probably a good sign. I know people really like it. It's got full array local dimming. It's a very bright TV, and overall, as long as you don't have a really bright room with a lot of direct light on the screen, it's a very good LED TV. But if you want to go up to the big brother that has better anti-reflective coating and better peak brightness, then you have to go to the X95K, which is $42.99 in the 85 inch. And let's see what it is, $21.99 in the 65 inch. So you can either have a 65 inch X95K or an 85 inch X90K. For me, that's an easy decision. Always take 20-inch size difference over a slightly better TV, but that's something you'll have to decide for your space. With that said, I do expect Sony to have a better lineup this year for LED TVs. I wouldn't be surprised if they had a couple mini LED TVs. I would be very surprised if they did not have more dimming zones, if they weren't brighter, if they didn't have improvements. So I'm looking forward to seeing Sony improve upon their first mini LED TV and maybe bringing a second one along for the ride. As I'll talk about in a second with Hisense, you can see that having mini LEDs across your lineup is possible. But before I get to Hisense, I want to talk about TCL because they have a whole new game this year. TCL was typically known for having its 4 series and its 5 series and 6 series and was the first to introduce mini LED and have a quantum dot layer. But this year they kind of just threw all of that out the window, and really what they're doing is breaking it down into an S series, a Q series, and then a QM series. And I'm not going to go over all the TVs, but Q means quantum, and those are 2 TVs I'm going to talk about, which are the Q6 and the Q7. So both the Q6 and the Q7 are going to be very bright screens. You're going to have good value, but TCL is going for more than just value this year. They have a backlit remote, they have gaming features, they have 2 HDMI 2.1 ports where there's another port for eARC so you don't have to get that all entangled, which is something a lot of gamers have asked for, but both will not be mini LED. And I'm not sure that's a huge deal because it looks like they have increased dimming zones and they're both very bright. So The Q6 is supposed to be right around 1,000 nits, and it's supposed to come in at that price point where it's going to be very difficult to beat for the competition. Your Samsungs, your LGs, your Sonys probably won't be able to compete with this kind of performance for this kind of price. The Q6 is a 60 hertz panel, but you can game at 120 hertz. It just cuts the vertical resolution in half, but the Q7 is an actual 120 hertz panel. And so that again can double up in the game mode to 240 hertz. Again, split the resolution in half, but they seem pretty stoked that it can do that. And I think some of the gamers might appreciate that because a lot of gaming monitors aren't full 4K anyways. Both of those TVs do come in 55 up to 85 inch, I believe. And the Q7 should get up to 1500 nits peak brightness. Again, more dimming zones, the eARC port being separate from the two HDMI 2.1 ports. Both TVs look awesome, but really the best TV that I saw there from TCL was the QM8. And this is definitely its flagship TV. It will have over 5 times the dimming zone compared to 2022, over 2,300 dimming zones. That's crazy. And it will be a mini LED QLED. So very exciting because this is now what I think their 3rd or 4th year with mini LED. And this time they're putting it in a flagship TV with 2,300 dimming zones, all the features. And I believe you can get it in 65 inch all the way up to 98 inch. And I got to see 2 of the 98 inch in action at CES and it looks brilliant. I think it's going to be one of the best TVs to come out with regards to the value and the performance. But this time I think the performance is going to be right up there with anything else you see at that size, but yet the price probably will still be less than the Samsung or, the Sony or the LG for their massive big screens. So where does that leave us with TCL currently? Well, I don't think you can go wrong if you were to buy a 65 or 55 inch 6 series mini LED. I didn't get an opportunity to review this specific TV, so I always want to say that because I didn't see it. But guys like Stop the FOMO, Caleb over at Digital Trends did review this. They really like it. So I have to take their word to a degree because I have seen previous versions. And I think a 55 inch TCL 6 series mini LED for $649 is probably one of the best deals that I could show you today. I think the only difference between this 6 series TCL and the Q6 and 7 for next year is that they will have the Google OS where this has Roku TV. So depending on if you like that or not, it might be a deal breaker for you. But if you have a third-party device, then I don't think it really matters. Or if you just use your gaming console for the OS, you're good to go. This is a great price. And if you want to go back to the massive 98 inch, we did see this at CES. TCL had the 98 inch. And some of my friends that hadn't really seen this in person were looking at that and saying, wow, that's actually pretty darn good. They had it up in their suite and we were talking to some of the TCL reps and that TV is fantastic. So I do think that the mini LED version of this will obviously be better, or why would TCL bring it out and showcase it at CES, right? But then this price either has to come down or that's going to be more expensive or a combination of the two. And I would look for this price on the R754 to come down toward Super Bowl weekend and all that. So its price right now is $82.98. It is $200 off its normal price. Woohoo, save 200 bucks. But I really think this TV is something that people should consider if they're looking for a gigantic screen. I know that I've had various ultra short throw projectors in my house, and because I have a lot of light in the room, the TCL 98 inch TV is better, and I just keep going back to it, watching sports, movies, all that. So definitely one of my favorite TVs in 2022. And like I had said, where TCL changed all their names, and it's a little confusing, but pretty exciting. Hisense did the opposite. They kept to their typical 6, 7, and 8 series, but they're all mini LED this year. So I'm pretty excited about that. First, we have the U8K, which has double the dimming zones of the 2022 model. It is a 144 hertz panel, and they claim that it can get up to 1500 nits. And some of the guys that measure this sort of thing normally say that Hisense outperforms what they claim. So that's a good sign. I'm excited for the U8K because I really liked last year's U8H. It was ridiculously bright. It had fantastic light control for an LED TV. If you told me it was a Samsung versus a Hisense LED TV, I wouldn't have been surprised. And my kids actually use the U8H for gaming, but they have to dim it down because it's too bright. I don't know, they're crazy. But the 75 inch U8H can be bought on Best Buy right now for $14.99 at that 75 inch size. And that is actually the largest size that it comes in. You can get the 65 inch for $9.99. And I think that's a great opportunity too. These TVs are fantastic. And I think with this Hisense TV or that TCL 6 series, I typically would say that the Hisense 8 series here for the same price, around $1,000, would be my choice. I've seen this. I know how great it is. But that's not all with Hisense because we also have the new U7K. U7K. And the cool thing about the U7K and even the U6K is that they're all mini LED. This is the only company that I know of where all the LED TVs are mini LED. So Hisense didn't come out with any mini LEDs in 2021. In 2022, they had one. And now in 2023, all of them are going to be mini LEDs. And I think that's a great way to go. And that's kind of what I was hoping with Sony to a degree, but I'm not sure because all those didn't come out yet. So we'll have to find out. But the U7K is supposed to be 1000 nits or brighter. It does, again, have double the dimming zones of last year. It's 120 hertz, or it could be 144 hertz panel. I'm not sure. I'll have to check on that one. But overall, it's going to take what I thought was a great value TV and make it even better. And the U7H was one of my favorite TVs that I reviewed late here because the 85-inch is only $17.99. So right now, if you compare this U7H to the Sony X90K, which are very similar models, so if I'm confusing everybody with all these different models, I apologize, but I would say that the Sony X90K and this Hisense U7H are very similar, and this is $500 less, running the same operating system, more or less. So I think this is a better value, of course. You're going to save $500 and actually $700 over its initial price. So again, when you're looking for a Super Bowl TV or you're going to buy something for your living room, this is a good opportunity to buy what I thought was a very bright TV with the Google TV OS, which was my favorite. And you can check out the review that I had on this. We unboxed it and did all that. A lot of these TVs we did, so check them out on my channel. And this would be a good opportunity to remind you guys, if you could, to smash the like button and subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and ring the notification bell. 2023 is going to be awesome. We're going to have a lot of new TVs, and we're going to be doing it in a little different way where we're going to be on location at people's houses a lot, so it should be pretty awesome. And last we have LG, which had all sorts of news and had the most ridiculous entrance I've ever seen to CES, although I've only been there for 2 years, but it was awesome. I think they had 260 of the 55-inch C series or B series OLED screens all laid out. Was absolutely phenomenal. And they had an entirely new TV in the M3, which is this new wireless OLED TV where you have the screen up on the wall. It does have a power cord, of course, and it does have a box, like a zero connect box where everything connects to that. You have a big giant antenna on top, and it can transmit 4K at 120 to the TV with what they say is zero lag or very, very minimal lag, and at the speeds 3 times that of Wi-Fi 6. So very cool. They had this on display with 8 screens around this big pond and water coming out. It was pretty awesome, I have to admit. But I think what most people are probably excited about are the OLED TVs, the normal C series TV, which has been awesome for years, and the Gallery series, the G3. And I'll start there because I thought the LG G3 up in their suite looked quite nice. Very clean on the wall, very well done in their studio, and it had a similar form factor to the G2 of last year. So I think that's pretty similar, but what's different is they have the new MLA or micro lens array technology, which is supposed to increase the brightness, sort of directing the light more directly out at you to increase the brightness, I guess, to a degree. That's the best way I can explain it. I'm sure you can find more technical people to explain it better. Now, they told us 70% brighter than the B series TV, so it's kind of hard to know exactly what that means, but a lot of people are predicting 1500 to 2000 nits of peak brightness in the small windows, and using the technology and the processing to kind of pick out points where they're going to really utilize that brightness, points of where you'd see the focal point of the image versus background imaging. As a layman, I normally see the improvements year over year, and I try to get models to compare them, but the G3 looks pretty awesome, and it does have a new operating system for 2023, which allows you to stack menus on top of each other or pick the ones that are most important to you and lay them out in a different manner. So it's a little bit easier to get through all the menus, and I think the same thing for the operating system, where if you have certain apps, you can have them on there, and then you can click on those and see what things on the home screen that you'd want to use from those apps. So different way of doing the OS, but overall the G3 looks to be one of the top TVs this year, and I think it will compete really well against the QD OLEDs. So we have traditional OLEDs with the MLA technology. However, the C series is not going to have that MLA technology. It's supposed to be around 20% brighter than the C2, more of a perceptual thing again, where they kind of focus your attention and use brightness to increase certain parts of the screen. So that should be interesting to see if that's going to be above and beyond the creator's intent, or if that's going to be something that you enjoy and appreciate. But overall, the C series, it's great every single year. Better processing, better motion control, brighter screens, more gaming features. I think overall the C series is probably the most consistent TV that I've ever seen over the course of time. I absolutely love it. And that brings me to the actual website here, because you can still get the C2 for $16.99 for a 65-inch. And right now, I think that's probably the best price OLED TV you can buy. And honestly, It's fantastic. So if you're sitting here like, I need to buy a TV, I can't really wait until the middle of the summer or even Black Friday to get similar prices on 2023 models, then I would just say buy the LG C2. It's awesome. If you're gonna put it up on the wall and you want it to be picture frame quality against the wall, then that's not this model. But in any other situation, I love this TV. On a stand, it looks awesome. On a wall where you're at the end of a room and you're not gonna be running around the side, it looks fantastic. And even if you do look at that side profile, it is so thin besides the bottom of the TV that most people that come over to houses after I've installed these are like, wow, that looks amazing. And this is legitimately the best gaming TV in the world, I think. It has all the features, 4 ports, 4K 120, FreeSync, G-Sync, VRR, all that. And the C series and the G series have fantastic connectivity to other devices. They click on, click off really quickly, and you have no handshaking issues typically. So it's easy to recommend this TV. And if you wanted to go with the G2, if you want to get the gallery TV and you're like, I can't wait until 2023 TVs come out, they're probably going to be more expensive, which is the case, then you can get a lot of these at discounts as well. The 77-inch is $35.99, and I have to remind people that typically a 77-inch OLED is around $3,500, even if it's more of a mid-tier or, you know, the Master Series A9G was not a mid-tier TV. It was fantastic, but this blows it out of the water, and it's the same price. Couple years ago, the same price as the A9G was. It's similarly priced to the A90J of Sony last year. So $35.99, 77-inch, fantastic. 65-inch is $21.99. And if you want to get the 55-inch, $16.99. So for me, again, if you can see right on this screen here, you can see at the top and the bottom, this 55-inch is $16.99. But at the bottom here, the 65-inch C2, $17.99. I would probably pull the trigger on the bigger TV as usual. I don't think I need it to be perfectly flat, tight on the wall, all that. You still have HDMI cords and power cords to concern yourself with. So unless you have it already set up for the G2, which doesn't come with the stand, so you can't do that, you could do the OLED, the C2 OLED here for $17.99 and get a bigger screen. I think that is my absolute best buy right now for you guys. And they do come in larger sizes, 77 and 83-inch. So if you want something like that, go ahead and check out what size you guys need. I think it's a fantastic TV, and if I was going to pull the trigger on something that I don't think is going to have a massive upgrade over the next year, I would say the LG C2 is going to be just fine all year long. The C3 may be a little bit better, but there's nothing wrong with the C2. Ask anybody that owns one. I think they'll agree. And lastly, if we're looking at TVs on Best Buy's website, I'd feel silly if I didn't mention the Total Tech membership, because you really should be a Total Tech member. It's something that I have, and I definitely recommend it because you do get a lot of benefits. You know, you do get Best Buy Geek Squad support available 24/7. You do get 2-day free shipping on all products, so it's very easy just to purchase these and have them shipped because, you know, who wants to go get an 85-inch TV and then try to lug it home yourself? And you get a 60-day extended return period, which is a lot better than 14 days because I know from firsthand experience, you can get a product in your house and look at it for 13 and a half days and still not know if you like it. But 60 days is plenty to check it out, see if you like it, return it if needs, get another one, you know, so forth. And really the best thing about it is 24 months of protection. So we're done and away with 1 year of something where maybe it has an issue right at 13 months and now you're concerned about where you're going to get help with. 24 months, much better. And I'd recommend getting the Best Buy Total Tech membership for sure. Wow, that was a lot of information. Hope it wasn't overwhelming. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or comments about these TVs, about 2023. I'm excited for another year of reviews. Gonna have Jen helping me even more. Hopefully go on location, install TVs for people, make it more of a show you what we really are like when we interact. So it's gonna be a fun year. So definitely smash the like button and make sure to be subscribed to the channel and set the notification bells to all so you get all those new videos as they come out. And I wanna thank Best Buy for sponsoring this video. All the links are in the description below. Please click on those to help the channel. We do get a small commission, but it does help us to buy TVs for 2023. Appreciate watching the video, and I will see you on the next one.